How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. After completely rebuilding their team, the Lakers will look and play much differently than they did last year, but will they actually be better? And if they will be, just how much better will they be? That question will definitely vary depending on who you are, but I think that we can all agree that on paper, they appear to be a much better team, though at the same time, their team last year looked very good on paper too, and even performed very well before dealing with injuries. And let's make that very clear before moving on any further. Their team last year was by no means bad. They began the year with a 21-6 record before Anthony Davis got hurt, and up until that point, they were believed by many to be the favorites to win a championship. And I do believe many people need to be reminded of that. Far too often, I see people referring to their team last year like they were actually a bad team, which is completely incorrect. I mean, don't get me wrong, they did have their flaws, but if not for injuries, they may very well have made another appearance in the NBA Finals. But even with all of that being said, I do believe that they have managed to put together an even better team. And in today's video, we'll talk about why I believe they are a better team now compared to last year. We'll do that by using numbers, analyzing each team's overall depth, making player comparisons, and more to help come to a conclusion on why their current team is better than their team last year, and we'll begin by using numbers. I know that not everyone is a fan of using numbers, but when making NBA comparisons, they often are required. And when thinking about numbers in the NBA, the first thing that often comes to mind would probably be points per game, and that happens to be an area where they made a huge upgrade. If we look at the combined points per game average of their top 13 scorers from last year, they fall way short of their current 13-man roster. And if you're wondering why I only use 13, well, that would be because they currently only have 13 players on their team right now. And while this comparison is not a perfect representation of how they upgraded their team, I think it does show how focused they were on adding more offensive talent. A lot of their new players' point averages probably will go down a little bit this year, but that really does not matter to the point I'm trying to make here, because while their point per game average as a team may not drastically improve, I do believe they'll be a much better all-around team on offense. And given that their offense was a much bigger problem last year compared to defense, that was the area where they needed more improvement. They addressed that need by not only trading for an actual third star in Westbrook, but they added other great complementary players too. Having proven offensive talent coming off their bench with guys like Carmelo Anthony and Kendrick Nunn will go a long way in helping improve their offense. They did not even have a reliable third option last year, but now they have 3 or 4 players who will be a reliable fourth option for them this year. I have zero doubts about their scoring ability as a team, but what about three-point shooting? That was not only a big problem for them last year, but after adding Westbrook to their team, many believe that it will continue to be a problem for them this year. And while I do not believe they will be a top 5 3-point shooting team or anything like that, I do think they will be better than last year. They had a team average of 35.4% from the 3-point line, which was only good enough to be ranked 21st overall in the entire NBA. And although I cannot make a direct numbers comparison here between teams, as we have not seen their current squad play yet, I can compare their top 3-point shooters. And to begin with that, last year they really did not have a reliable knockdown 3-point shooter. Ben McLemore was kind of in that conversation towards the end of the year, but he did not play with them for that long. In terms of overall 3-point shooting percentage, their top 3-point shooters who took more than 2 per game were Marc Gasol, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and Alex Caruso. And although they each did shoot well on average, we all know that they were not entirely reliable. Both of Caldwell-Pope and Caruso were very streaky throughout the entire year, and then while Mark shot between 35 and 45% throughout the year, he did not take very many of them per game. And if we compare those 3 to their top 3-point shooters now, it's almost laughable. In terms of pure 3-point shooting, I'd take Wayne Ellington alone over all 3 of Caldwell-Pope, Caruso, and Gasol. But then when you throw Carmelo Anthony and a guy like Kent Bazemore or Malik Monk into that mix, it's not even a fair comparison anymore. Out of the 13 players on their current roster, 5 of them shot above 40% from the 3-point line last year, with those being Wayne Ellington, Melo, Kent Bazemore, Malik Monk, and Rondo. I don't think there's any question about their improvement from the 3-point line as an overall team. and between their noticeable improvement in scoring and shooting ability compared to last year's team, I think it's fairly safe to say that they improved on offense. But what about defense? It is a bit harder to compare that with numbers, so we are going to avoid doing that. Rather, we are going to use the eye test and compare players individually for this one. And while I am not going to make any comparison with numbers, real quick to refresh your memory, the Lakers did rank as the #1 rated defensive team last year. In other words, it's hard to get much better than that, and what is even more impressive about it is that they did it while dealing with a ton of injuries. They were without Anthony Davis for half of the year, who was without a doubt their best overall defender. But what they did really well to overcome that was play very good team defense, and they will have to work very hard if they hope to match that again this year. And while I do believe they have the ability to do that, it will not be easy. If I had to compare their defense between individual players, I would say that their team last year had about 7 players who played at least above average defense for the entire year. I know a lot of you do not like Schroeder or Kuzma, and while they're both very unreliable offensively, they did put forth regular effort and made contributions on defense. Comparing that to their team this year, I think they have about 5 or 6 players who played above average defense throughout all of last year, and in terms of having individual defenders, I think their team last year might have the slight edge here, but not by all that much. Losing Caldwell Pope, Caruso, Schroeder, and Matthews will hurt their perimeter defense, but they did improve in other areas. A healthy Anthony Davis, along with Dwight Howard and even DeAndre Jordan, will be a big upgrade over Montrezl Harrell and Andre Drummond. And given that both teams either have been or will be coached by Frank Vogel, who we all know demands effort and energy on defense, I think they will be fairly comparable overall. They might take a slight step backwards, but I believe they'll be around a top 5 defensive rated team once again, which really should be more than enough if they improve offensively. I feel like they traded a little bit of defense for more offense, and I completely agree with that move. Even if they failed to only be a top 5 to top 8 rated defensive team, but then became a top 5 rated offensive team, that would be a huge improvement. For reference, they were the 24th overall offensive rated team last year, so if they would be able to take a 15 to 20 place jump in offensive rating, that would be huge for them. They need to have a good balance between offense and defense, and while a lot of that will depend on health, I do believe their current team is a better balanced team overall. Which leads into my final point, with that being about team depth. Being a deep team not only helps prevent injuries by giving your star players more of a break, but it helps maintain that balance too, and I believe they have a deeper team now compared to last year. And that really is quite the compliment, because they were fairly deep last year too. While a couple of their veteran players did not play up to expectations, they still had 12 or more guys who were worthy of playing time every game. And although they have more players on minimum contracts now, they somehow managed to get even deeper. They were able to find incredible value for cheap during free agency, and that not only came with veteran players, but with younger players too. Being able to grab Kendrick Nunn and Malik Monk for a combined $7 million was an absolute bargain. I don't think anyone could have seen that coming, and that is the big difference between their team last year and their team this year. Because last year, they were not able to go out and add any young players like Kendrick Nunn or Malik Monk for that kind of value, and looking back on it, they were unable to add any big contributors in free agency at all, and while it is yet to be seen what their new additions will do this year, I believe that they will outperform the free agent additions from the previous year. In conclusion though, between making improvements to their offense, maintaining or only slightly declining on defense, and adding more overall talent to their team, I believe they were able to improve considerably, and enough for me to say that they are a better team now compared to last year. But what do you guys think? Just how much better do you believe they will be this year compared to last year? And in what areas do you think they made their biggest improvements? Let me know your thoughts by commenting down below, and we can talk about it there. That will do it for this video though. Thank you to everyone who took the time to watch until the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please remember to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and turn on notifications to get notified right away when I drop a new video. If you want to stay up to date on all my immediate thoughts moves around the NBA, be sure to follow me on Twitter too. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day.